My name is Marissa Cole, and I'm 34 years old. I didn't know a parent-teacher meeting could turn into a custody ambush until my ex's new girlfriend tried to erase me with one sentence, said like she was announcing something obvious. Like gravity, like a fact. I'm his real mom now. You're banned from the parent-teacher meeting. The thing about statements like that is they don't land like an insult at first. They land like a theft. Quiet, casual, confident. And the worst part? It wasn't even said to my face at first. It was said to the school. Because people like her don't just want to hurt you. They want paperwork to do it for them. I have a 7-year-old son named Liam. He's the best thing that's ever happened to me. No question. The kind of kid who still believes you can fix a bad day with hot chocolate and a cartoon, and who says I love you like it's a normal thing to say, not a bargaining chip. His dad, my ex, Derek, and I split 4 years ago, when Liam was 3. It wasn't gentle. Derek said he felt boxed in, said he wanted his life to feel bigger again, said he couldn't breathe. The usual words people use when they're trying to make leaving sound like self-care. Fine. We did mediation. We got a custody agreement. 50-50 split, alternating weeks, joint legal custody, education, medical decisions, all the big stuff, equal say. I signed those papers with a knot in my throat and a promise in my head. No matter what happens between adults, Liam will never doubt he has a mother who shows up. And I meant it. Every school concert, every soccer game, every parent-teacher conference. If there was a folding chair with my name on it, I was in it. Because that's what Liam deserved. Because that's what I deserved too. Then Derek started dating Tessa 8 months ago. At first I didn't care. He can date whoever he wants. That's the whole point of being someone's ex. But Tessa didn't date Derek like a person. She dated him like a project, like a brand makeover. Like she'd been handed a role and decided she wasn't going to be a supporting character. The first time I met her, it was at pickup. Derek opened the door, Liam launched into my arms, and there she was behind him in the hallway, smiling too wide, wearing that polished I'm harmless face. "Marissa," she said, dragging my name out like she was tasting it, "I've heard so much about you." It wasn't a compliment. It was ownership. I nodded, kept it civil. Then she looked at Liam and said, "Aw, my little man." My little man. Like I wasn't standing there. Like the word my wasn't a blade. I let it go. Because I wasn't going to start a war over a pronoun. I should have. It escalated the way these things always do, slowly at first, so you question yourself. At soccer games, Tessa started showing up in matching team colors like she'd been there since day one. She'd position herself right next to Derek and cheer louder than everyone, screaming, "That's my boy!" So the other parents turned to look. Meanwhile, I sat across the field, clapping, steady, pretending I didn't feel like I was being replaced in public. At pickup, she'd make comments. "Oh, you're still doing the every other week thing," she said once, as if shared custody was a hobby. "That must be hard." Hard. Like I was weak. Like Derek was doing me a favor by allowing me access to my own child. I'd smile tightly and say, "We're both his parents, it works." Tessa would tilt her head like she felt sorry for me. And Derek? Derek would stare at his phone, silent, conveniently absent. That silence was the first betrayal, because it told her she could keep going. 3 weeks ago, Liam came home from Derek's week quieter than usual. Not sad, not crying. Just off. Like a light in him had been dimmed by something he didn't know how to name. I was making dinner, simple stuff, pasta and steamed broccoli, when he wandered into the kitchen and leaned against the counter, watching me, like he was waiting for permission to speak. "Hey," I said softly. "You okay?" He shrugged. That little shrug kids do when they don't want to betray anyone, but they also can't hold it in. "Mom," he finally said, voice small. "Tessa said she's going to be my new mom soon." My hand stilled on the spoon. My stomach dropped so fast it felt like missing a step on stairs. "What did she say?" I asked, keeping my voice gentle on purpose. Liam frowned, chewing the inside of his cheek. "She said, real moms live with their kids all the time, and that since I'm at Dad's house a lot, she's, like, the real mom." I blinked once, twice, because in my head, 1,000 thoughts crashed into each other. Rage, fear, heartbreak, the image of Liam sitting there absorbing that poison like it was truth. "What did you say?" I asked. Liam's shoulders lifted like he was bracing for consequences. "I said I already have a mom. You." And I swear something in my chest cracked open. I pulled him into a hug so tight he squeaked. "You're right," I whispered into his hair. "You already have a mom. Me. And nothing changes that." He relaxed against me, but I could feel how hard his little heart was beating. He shouldn't have to defend me. Not at 7. Not from adults who claim to love him. That night after he fell asleep, I texted Derek. Calm, controlled, no accusations. Hey, can we talk about what Tessa said to Liam about being his new mom? It confused him. He's upset. I stared at the screen for a long time after I sent it, because I already knew what kind of man Derek was when conflict required spine. His reply came 20 minutes later. She's bonding with him. Stop being so sensitive. You're not the only woman in his life anymore. Get used to it. I read it 3 times. Sensitive. Get used to it. Like motherhood was a seat at a table, and he'd decided to invite someone else without asking me. I didn't answer. Not because I agreed. Because I could feel the trap. If I reacted emotionally, I'd be unstable. If I reacted legally, I'd be dramatic. So I did what I've learned to do when people try to corner you with labels. I got quiet. I documented. And I waited. Parent-teacher conference day had been on my calendar for a month. Liam's teacher had emailed out the schedule. I signed up for the 4:30 p.m. slot, even though it fell during Derek's week, because joint legal custody means I don't need permission to care about my child's education. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. The caller ID said the school's front office. I answered, expecting a reminder about parking or paperwork. Instead, the receptionist's voice sounded cautious. Hi, Ms. Cole, she said. This is the front office. We have kind of a situation regarding Liam's parent-teacher conference tonight. My fingers tightened around the phone. A situation, I repeated. Well, she hesitated. Someone called earlier today claiming to be Liam's stepmother. She said you're no longer permitted to attend school functions. For a second, I actually thought I'd misheard. I'm sorry, what? She said there was a new custody arrangement, the receptionist continued, voice careful, and that you'd been removed from the approved contact list. She also said you might cause a disruption and that security should be notified if you show up. The room went very still around me. The pasta sauce was bubbling on the stove, filling the kitchen with the smell of tomatoes and garlic like everything in the world was normal. But my body had already shifted into something colder, something sharper, because now it wasn't just a cruel comment to a child. It was a direct attempt to erase me, through an institution, with authority. I took a slow breath. Ma'am, I said evenly, I have joint legal custody. There is no stepmother. Derek has a girlfriend. There is definitely no new custody arrangement. I thought something was off, she said quickly. That's why I called you directly. And I appreciated her for that more than she knew. Because one phone call meant the difference between me being blindsided at the door and me walking in prepared. I stared at the wall for a long second after we hung up. Then I opened my contacts, and I called my lawyer, not because I wanted drama, because someone else already started it. And I refused to be the one caught without proof. The moment I hung up with the school, I didn't move for a full 5 seconds, not because I was stunned, because I was calculating. There's a specific kind of rage that doesn't feel hot. It feels clean. Like your brain snaps into a sterile, bright room where emotions are allowed to exist, but they don't get to drive. That was me in my kitchen, wood floor under my bare feet, pasta sauce still bubbling on the stove, and my entire body going cold with the realization that Tessa had just tried to weaponize an institution against me. A school, a place full of children, a place that was supposed to be safe. My hands shook as I turned off the burner. Not because I was afraid of her. Because I was afraid of what happens when someone like her realizes she can lie, and people might believe it. I wiped my palms on a dish towel, walked into the living room, and called my lawyer. My attorney's name is Dana Pritchard. I hired her during the divorce because she didn't play games. She didn't talk like she was trying to sound comforting. She talked like she was trying to win. And today, I needed that. Dana picked up on the second ring. Marissa. Dana, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. I just got a call from Liam's school. Someone claiming to be his stepmother called and told them I'm not allowed at the parent-teacher conference. Said there's a new custody arrangement and that security should be notified if I show up. There was a pause. Not surprise. More like Dana was setting something down on her desk. Who was it? She asked. Tessa, I said. Derek's girlfriend. Dana exhaled through her nose. Okay, we're not going to panic, but we're also not going to let this slide. I'm not panicking, I said. That wasn't entirely true. My heart felt like it was beating too close to the surface of my skin. But Dana didn't need my fear. She needed facts. I need certified copies, I told her. Custody agreement, court order, anything that confirms joint legal custody and my rights to attend school functions. Understood, she said briskly. Give me 2 hours. 2 hours. It was the most reassuring thing I'd heard all day. Because it meant this wasn't about who sounded more confident on the phone. It was about who had proof. And I did. While Dana worked, I did my own version of not panicking. I documented. I opened a notes app and typed out every detail while it was still sharp. Date, time. What the receptionist said. Exact wording about security. Exact wording about stepmother. Because I have learned something the hard way in life. People like Tessa don't just try once. They test the door. Then they push. Then they shove. Then they act confused when you accuse them of breaking in. I saved the note, emailed it to myself, and then I did something else. I called Derek. Not to argue. Not to beg for reason. Just to make sure he understood what line had been crossed. He didn't pick up. Of course he didn't. So I left a voicemail, calm, controlled, and absolutely unforgiving. Derek, this is Marissa. Liam's school just called me because someone claiming to be his stepmother told them I'm banned from tonight's conference and that security should be notified if I show up. If that was Tessa, you need to fix it immediately. This is not a misunderstanding. This is interference. Call me back. I hung up before my voice could crack. At 3:40 p.m., my phone buzzed. Dana. Come by, she said. I have everything ready. Bless that woman. I grabbed my keys, left Liam with my neighbor for an hour, Mrs. Hahn, who had known me long enough to see the look on my face and not ask questions, and drove across town with my jaw locked so tight my teeth hurt. Dana's office smelled like printer ink and expensive coffee. She handed me a manila folder thick enough to feel like armor. Inside, certified copy of the custody agreement. Court order confirming joint legal custody. A letter on Dana's letterhead stating my rights as Liam's legal parent and joint custodian. Copies of my ID. Dana looked at me over the folder like she could see straight through my skin. This might feel personal, she said, but treat it like a process. Schools respond to paperwork, not emotions. I know, I said, but my throat was tight anyway. Dana leaned forward slightly. And Marissa, if she confronts you, don't get pulled into a scene. Let them be loud. You be documented. That sentence settled into my bones. Let them be loud. You be documented. By 4:10 p.m., I was parked outside the school. I sat in my car for a moment with the folder on the passenger seat, staring at the building like it was a courtroom instead of an elementary school. I could already imagine Tessa inside, sitting in one of those tiny plastic chairs like she belonged there, smiling like she'd won. And I could feel something else under my anger, something sharper, more painful. Because this wasn't just about a meeting. This was about the message she was trying to send. You can be Liam's mother at home, but in public, in systems, in official spaces, I can replace you. No. I slid the folder into my hands, got out of the car, and walked toward the front doors. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady, like someone who knew exactly who she was. The front office was quiet. A few parents in the hallway. The faint sound of kids in after-school programs, somewhere down the corridor. The receptionist looked up when I entered, and the moment our eyes met, I saw it. Recognition. A subtle shift of her mouth. Not a smile. More like, okay, here we go. Ms. Cole, she said softly. Hi, I replied. Thank you for calling me earlier. She nodded. Her eyes flicked to the folder in my hands. I'm sorry about this, she said. It's not your fault, I told her, and I meant it. Because I wasn't mad at the school. I was mad at the person who thought she could rewrite my motherhood with a phone call. The receptionist lowered her voice. They're already here, she said. In the hallway by the second grade wing. Of course they were. Already in position. Already ready to perform. I gave the receptionist one last nod, something between gratitude and promise, and turned toward the hall. My heels clicked softly on the tile as I walked. Each step felt like a countdown. As I got closer to Liam's classroom, I saw them. Derek first, slouched in one of those tiny chairs, legs stretched out, phone in hand, like he was waiting for a table at a restaurant. And then Tessa, sitting beside him like a queen, one arm draped across the back of his chair, her posture relaxed, her face bright with that smug calm people wear when they're sure the room belongs to them. She saw me, and for half a second her expression flickered. Not fear, surprise, like she hadn't expected me to show up at all. Then she smiled, that smile, the kind that says, you can try. She stood slowly, like she had all the time in the world. What are you doing here? She asked, loud enough that a couple parents down the hall glanced over. Derek finally looked up from his phone. His eyes widened just a fraction. Not because he was happy to see me, because he realized I wasn't here to be polite. I was here to be undeniable. Tessa's smile sharpened. I told them you weren't coming, she said, voice dripping with confidence. This is Derek's week. We're handling it. I didn't answer right away. I just looked at her. Then I looked at Derek, and I let the silence stretch long enough for Derek's discomfort to show. Yeah, I said finally, voice level. I heard about that. Tessa tilted her head. Then you understand. I lifted the folder slightly. I understand exactly, I said, and I brought something that's going to make this really simple. Tessa's eyes flicked to the folder. Her smile faltered again, just a millimeter. Derek's shoulders tensed. What is that? He asked too quickly. I kept my gaze on him. My custody documents, I said. Certified, current, court-stamped. Tessa laughed. Light, dismissive, practiced. Wow, she said. You really can't let go, can you? And there it was. The script she'd planned. The narrative she'd built. Needy ex, overbearing mom, doesn't know her place. I felt my pulse beat once in my throat. Then I looked her dead in the eye. I'm not letting go, I said calmly. I'm showing up. Those are different things. Before she could respond, the classroom door opened. Liam's teacher stepped out, her face already tense, like she'd heard raised voices and was bracing for impact. Hi, she said cautiously. Is everything okay out here? Tessa's chin lifted. This woman isn't supposed to be here, she said sweetly. Can you call the office? The teacher's eyes darted to me, then to Derek, then back to me. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply held out the folder. These are my legal custody documents, I said. Joint legal custody. Equal rights to school functions. I signed up for this slot a month ago. The teacher took the folder. Her fingers flipped through the first page, and I watched her expression change in real time, like a fog clearing. Tessa's face tightened. That's old paperwork, she snapped, the sweetness cracking. It's court-stamped, I said, current. The teacher swallowed, then looked at Tessa with something close to discomfort. I'm going to get the principal, she said quietly. And she stepped away. Tessa's breath hitched like she hadn't expected that, like she thought confidence alone would win. Derek stood up. Marissa, he started, warning in his voice. But I cut him off softly. No, I said. You don't get to Marissa me right now. Tessa stepped closer, her voice dropping. You're embarrassing yourself, she hissed. I met her eyes. No, I said. I'm embarrassing you. There's a difference. And as the hallway grew quieter, as other parents pretended not to watch while absolutely watching, I realized something chilling. This wasn't just a fight between adults. This was a public attempt to decide who Liam belonged to. And I wasn't about to lose my son in a school hallway because a woman with main character syndrome wanted to play house. Footsteps sounded from down the corridor. Slow, heavy, official. The principal was coming. And Tessa's smile? It was gone. The principal walked down the hallway with the kind of calm that only comes from years of dealing with other people's chaos. Gray hair, sensible shoes, clipboard tucked under one arm like a shield. He didn't rush. He didn't look alarmed, which somehow made the moment heavier, like gravity had just doubled. What seems to be the issue? He asked, stopping a few feet from us. Tessa didn't hesitate. Of course she didn't. She stepped forward like this was her stage, her cue, her scene to command. This woman isn't supposed to be here, she said crisply, pointing at me like I was a misplaced object. She was removed from the approved list. She causes tension, and it's confusing for the child. The word child landed hard, like Liam was an idea instead of a person. The principal turned to me. I didn't interrupt. I didn't defend myself with emotion. I held out the folder. These are my custody documents, I said. Joint legal custody. Equal rights to attend school functions. I signed up for this conference a month ago. He took the folder and read. The hallway felt suddenly too quiet. I could hear the hum of fluorescent lights, the muffled laughter of kids somewhere down the hall, my own breathing. Slow, measured, intentional. Tessa crossed her arms. That paperwork is outdated, she said. Things have changed. The principal didn't look up. How so? He asked. Tessa opened her mouth, then closed it. Derek shifted beside her, finally speaking up. We're planning to get married, he said. She's very involved. She's basically isn't legally, the principal said, still reading. He flipped another page, then another. 30 seconds. That's all it took. He looked up at Tessa. Ma'am, he said evenly, who are you in relation to this student? She smiled again, but this time it was tighter. I'm his stepmother. The principal's eyebrows lifted slightly. Are you married to his father? Well, no, not yet. Are you listed as a legal guardian? No, but... Are you listed as an emergency contact? Yes. He nodded. Emergency contact and legal custody are not the same thing, he said calmly. According to these documents, Ms. Cole has joint legal custody and full rights to attend school functions. Tessa's face flushed. This is ridiculous, she snapped. She only has him half the time. I'm the one who... Ma'am, the principal interrupted, his voice firmer now. Lower your voice. You're in a school. Derek finally looked uncomfortable. She's just trying to help, he said weakly. The principal closed the folder. Sir, he said to Derek, Your partner contacted our office and claimed a parent had been removed from custody. That is a serious misrepresentation. Tessa stepped forward again, anger leaking through her composure. I was protecting him, she said. He needs stability, one household, not someone who just drops in and out. Something inside me went very still. Part-time mom. There it was again. The principal looked directly at her. That's enough, he said. You are not a legal guardian. You made false claims to our staff regarding custody arrangements. I need you to leave the premises. The words hung in the air. You could practically hear them land. Tessa laughed once, sharp, incredulous. You can't kick me out. I can, he said, and I am. Please leave voluntarily, or I'll have to involve our resource officer. Her mouth fell open. Derek stared at the floor. Tessa turned to him like he was supposed to save her. Say something, she hissed. He didn't, because there was nothing to say. The principal gestured toward the front office. Please, he said, now. Tessa grabbed her purse, movements jerky and furious. This isn't over, she snapped at me as she stormed past. You're confusing him. You'll regret this. I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because the truth was already louder than she was. The principal turned to me. I apologize for the confusion, he said sincerely. Our staff followed protocol by contacting you directly. Thank you for bringing the proper documentation. Thank you for listening, I replied. He nodded, then turned to Derek. I strongly advise you to ensure your partner understands legal boundaries, he said. Any further attempts to misrepresent custody will be formally documented. Derek swallowed. Yes, sir. Tessa was already gone, heels echoing down the hallway like punctuation. The parent-teacher conference itself? Normal. Quiet. Perfectly, blessedly boring. Liam is doing well in reading. Needs a little extra help in math. He's kind to classmates. Participates. Tries hard. I nodded. Took notes. Asked questions. Like a mother. When I stepped back into the hallway afterward, Derek was still sitting there alone in one of those tiny plastic chairs. Tessa hadn't come back. I hope you're happy, he muttered without looking at me. I'm not happy about any of this, I said. I just want to be part of my son's life. She cares about him, Derek said defensively. Our son, I corrected gently. Yours and mine, not hers. He didn't answer. The next day, when I picked Liam up for my week, I hugged him tight and didn't say a word about what happened. He doesn't need adult battles. He just needs his mom. But as I drove home, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. I didn't respond, because something told me she was right. And the worst part? This had only been her first real move. For about 48 hours after the parent-teacher conference, everything went quiet. No texts from Derek. No calls from unknown numbers. No dramatic Facebook posts about toxic co-parenting or protecting children from negativity. That silence should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like the moment after a storm when the air goes still. Not because it's over, but because something bigger is forming. I didn't relax. I've learned that when people like Tessa lose publicly, they don't reflect. They regroup. The call came on Sunday morning. I was sitting at the kitchen table, helping Liam with a Lego set, sipping coffee that had already gone cold, when my phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in years. Carol Whitman, Derek's mother, my ex-mother-in-law. We were never close, but we were civil. She'd always been fair during the divorce, never took sides openly, never tried to rewrite history. So when I saw her name on my screen, my stomach tightened in a different way. Hi, Carol, I answered. Marissa, she said, voice low. Do you have a minute? Something in her tone told me this wasn't a courtesy call. Of course, I said, standing up and walking into the other room so Liam wouldn't hear. She didn't waste time. I heard what happened at the school, she said, and I want you to know, I'm on your side. I closed my eyes. That alone was more validating than she probably realized. What Tessa did was wrong, Carol continued. Very wrong. Derek shouldn't have allowed it, but he's not thinking clearly right now. I figured, I said carefully. I'm worried, she added. That word stuck. Worried how? I asked. There was a pause. Then Carol exhaled slowly. She's been telling people you're barely involved, she said. That Liam doesn't have stability with you. She's pushing hard for them to move in together. And she keeps talking about adoption. My heart dropped so fast I had to grip the counter. Adoption? I repeated. Yes, Carol said. Once they're married. She talks like it's already decided. I felt dizzy. She can't do that without my consent, I said, more to steady myself than to inform her. I know, Carol said quickly. I don't think she does. Or if she does, she's choosing to ignore it. The picture was suddenly very clear. The school incident wasn't a one-off. It was a test. A probe. A way to see if she could push me out quietly before anyone noticed. Thank you for telling me, I said. I really appreciate it. Carol hesitated. I don't want Liam caught in the middle of adults trying to prove something. Neither do I thought. But some people only understand boundaries after they hit them. The next call I made was to Dana. She wasn't surprised. Adoption talk is common with overreaching partners, she said, especially ones who see a child as proof of legitimacy. Don't panic. She has no legal standing, but document everything, I finished. Exactly, Dana said. And Marissa? If she contacts you directly again, do not engage emotionally. Save everything. I promised I would. I didn't know how soon I'd need that promise. 3 days later, at 7:12 p.m., there was a knock on my door. Not a neighbor's polite tap. Not a delivery. A firm, deliberate knock. The kind that assumes you'll open it. I checked the peephole, and there she was. Tessa, standing in my hallway like she belonged there. Arms crossed, jaw tight, no smile this time. I didn't open the door immediately. I took my phone out and hit record, audio only. Then I opened it. What are you doing here? I asked. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't, I replied. You need to leave. She stepped forward anyway, invading the threshold. You humiliated me, she said, voice low and sharp. At the school, in front of everyone. You humiliated yourself, I said calmly. You lied to an institution about my custody rights. I was trying to protect him, she snapped. He needs consistency. One household, not this back and forth nonsense. That's not your call, I said. Her eyes hardened. I'm going to marry Derek, she said. I'm going to be in Liam's life whether you like it or not. That doesn't give you authority, I replied. She leaned closer. Courts like stability, she said quietly. 2-parent households. Full-time care. You'll be the odd one out. There it was. The threat. I'm documenting this conversation, I said evenly. You are trespassing. Leave my property. She smiled then. A thin, cruel smile. Think about what I said, she murmured. You don't want this to get ugly. Then she turned and walked away like she'd just delivered a business proposal. I closed the door with shaking hands and immediately emailed the recording and a written summary to Dana. Her response came 10 minutes later. Concerning. Not actionable yet. Keep documenting. Derek texted me the next morning. You need to stop antagonizing Tessa. She's going to be Liam's stepmother. You should be grateful someone wants to step up. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. I've never stopped being his mother. Liam doesn't need anyone to step up. And your girlfriend showing up at my home to threaten me is not okay. He didn't respond. That weekend was my week with Liam. We went to the park, built a ridiculous Lego spaceship that kept collapsing, made pizza from scratch and covered the counter in flour. Normal mom stuff. Safe stuff. Liam didn't mention Tessa once. Not her name, not a story, nothing. Which told me more than words ever could. But when I dropped him off Sunday night, she was there, standing on the porch, like a gate. Hey, buddy, she said loudly. Ready for movie night? Liam shrugged and walked inside. Tessa turned to me, smiling like she'd won something. See, she said. He likes having me around. I never said he didn't, I replied. Then why are you fighting this? I'm not fighting you being around, I said quietly. I'm fighting you trying to replace me. Her smile slipped. You're paranoid. I got in my car and drove away, because I could feel it in my bones now. She wasn't done. And the next move wouldn't be as obvious as the first. The call came on Tuesday afternoon, right as I was closing my laptop at work. I almost didn't answer. The number wasn't saved, and I was already mentally switching gears, picking up Liam later, figuring out dinner, the quiet logistics that make up most of motherhood. Something told me to pick up anyway. Hi, is this Marissa Cole? A man asked. Yes, I said. This is Coach Reynolds, Liam's soccer coach. I just wanted to give you a heads up about something odd. My stomach dropped before he even finished the sentence. Someone called earlier today, he continued, trying to remove you from the approved pickup list. Said you weren't supposed to attend practices or games anymore. I closed my eyes. Let me guess, I thought. And did they claim to be his stepmother? I asked. There was a pause. Yeah, he said slowly. That's exactly what she said. I let out a long breath through my nose. She's not, I said. I have joint legal custody. I'm very much still his mother. We figured something was off, Coach Reynolds said quickly. We checked the school records and confirmed your status. You're still on the list. Nothing's changing. I just thought you should know. Thank you, I said. I really appreciate you calling me directly. After we hung up, I sat there for a moment, staring at my dark computer screen like it might blink back with answers. School, soccer. That wasn't coincidence. That was strategy. Tessa wasn't reacting emotionally anymore. She was systematically trying to remove me from Liam's world, one institution at a time, quietly, persistently. And if I hadn't pushed back the first time, if the school receptionist hadn't trusted her instincts, I might not even know it was happening. That realization made my hands shake. Not with fear, with resolve. I called Dana within minutes. She tried again, I said. Soccer this time. Dana was silent for a beat. Okay, she said. That's a pattern. What do we do? I asked. We escalate, she replied. Not aggressively, strategically. She explained it calmly, like she always did. A cease and desist letter to both Derek and Tessa, clearly outlining my parental rights and warning that further attempts to interfere or misrepresent custody could result in legal action. And then something else. I recommend filing a petition for a modification hearing, Dana said. Not to change custody, just to formally document what's been happening. Court? I asked. Yes, she said. Right now, everything she's done lives in emails, phone calls, and memories. I want it on record. If this escalates further, and it usually does, you want a judge to see a pattern, not isolated incidents. I looked out the window of my office at the parking lot below, cars coming and going, like none of this mattered. Do it, I said. The cease and desist letter went out the next morning. Formal, precise, unemotional. It listed dates, times, and institutions. School, soccer, my apartment. It stated clearly that any further interference with my parental rights could be grounds for legal consequences. Derek texted me an hour after it was delivered. This is insane. You're blowing this way out of proportion. I didn't respond. Tessa didn't text at all, which somehow was worse. The court date was set for 3 weeks later. 3 weeks of waiting. 3 weeks of wondering what else she might try. I stayed vigilant. Every voicemail saved. Every text screenshot. Every conversation documented. And then, like clockwork, she showed up again. This time not at my door. At pickup. I pulled up to Derek's house on Sunday evening to drop Liam off after my week. He hopped out of the car, backpack slung over one shoulder, waving as he ran inside. And there she was, standing on the porch, arms crossed, watching me like a security camera. Tessa, I said evenly. She smiled. That same slow, confident smile. I hear you're taking this to court, she said. I'm documenting interference, I replied. Yes. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. You know, judges don't like drama, she said, especially from mothers who can't let go. I met her gaze. Judges don't like liars either, I said. Her eyes flashed. We're just trying to give him a stable home, she snapped. One household, 2 parents, not this. This, I said quietly, is called co-parenting, and it's not optional. She laughed. You're paranoid, she said again, like it was her favorite word. You should really think about how this makes you look. I didn't answer. I got back into my car and drove away, because I finally understood something with absolute clarity. This wasn't about Liam's well-being. It was about control. And the thing about people who need control, they don't stop until someone stronger tells them to. In this case, that someone was a judge, and I was done waiting for permission to protect my place in my son's life. The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant. That strange, neutral scent that tells you this building has absorbed thousands of other people's problems and doesn't care about yours specifically. Which, in a way, was comforting. This wasn't personal here. This was procedural. I sat on the hard wooden bench on outside the courtroom, manila folder on my lap, hands folded neatly over it. I'd dressed deliberately, nothing dramatic, nothing soft. Navy blazer, simple blouse, hair pulled back. I wasn't here to look like a victim. I was here to look like a parent who understood boundaries. Across the hallway, Derek arrived with Tessa. Of course she came. She wore a fitted blazer and heels that clicked sharply against the tile, chin lifted like she was walking into a meeting where she expected to dominate the room. Derek trailed half a step behind her, shoulders tight, eyes darting. She didn't look at me at first. Then she did, and smiled. I didn't smile back. Inside the courtroom, everything felt smaller than I expected. The judge, a woman in her late 50s with silver-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun, sat behind the bench with a kind of calm authority that made the air feel heavier. Dana stood beside me. Tessa sat with Derek in the gallery. She leaned forward like she was invested in every word. That was her mistake. Dana presented the facts. Not emotionally, not theatrically, just clean lines of truth. First, the school incident, where Tessa claimed I'd been removed from custody. Second, the soccer coach's written statement confirming an attempted removal from the pickup list. Third, my written account and audio recording of Tessa showing up at my home and issuing veiled threats. Fourth, Derek's text messages dismissing my concerns and validating her behavior. The judge read quietly. No reactions, no interruptions, just the sound of pages turning. When she looked up, she addressed Derek first. "Mr. Whitman," she said, voice even. "Can you explain why your partner has been contacting schools and extracurricular organizations claiming to be a legal guardian?" Derek shifted in his seat. "She was just trying to help," he said. "She's very involved in my son's life." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Being involved does not grant legal authority," she replied. "You understand that, correct?" "Yes," Derek said quickly, "but—" "There is no but," the judge said, cutting him off cleanly. "This court order is explicit." She turned her gaze to Tessa. "Ms. Harris," she said, "you are not a party to this case. You have no legal relationship to this child." Tessa leaned forward, unable to contain herself. "I'm just trying to provide stability," she said. "His mother only has him half the time. That's confusing for a child." The courtroom went still. The judge's expression hardened. "Are you suggesting," she asked slowly, "that this court's custody order is inadequate?" Tessa's mouth opened, then closed. "No," she said. "I'm just saying—" "You are not here to say anything," the judge replied. "You are here as a guest. I strongly recommend you stop speaking." Tessa fell silent. Her jaw clenched. The judge turned back to Dana. "I'm granting the petition," she said. "The record will reflect that Ms. Cole has full joint legal custody and equal rights to participate in all educational and extracurricular activities." She paused. "And I am issuing a formal warning." She looked directly at Derek. "Any further attempts by you or your partner to interfere with Ms. Cole's parental rights may be considered contempt of court." Then her gaze shifted to Tessa. "And that warning applies to you as well, even though you are not a legal guardian." Tessa's face flushed a deep, angry red. "Do you understand?" the judge asked. "Yes," Derek said quickly. Tessa said nothing. "Court is adjourned," the judge concluded. Just like that. Months of stress. Weeks of documentation. Reduced to a few sentences of undeniable authority. Outside the courthouse, the air felt sharper, colder, like reality rushing back in. Tessa exploded the moment we stepped onto the steps. "This is insane," she snapped, pacing. "The system is rigged. They treat fathers and stepmothers like we don't matter." Derek reached for her arm. "Babe, let's just go." She yanked her arm free and rounded on me. "You think you've won?" she shouted. "This isn't over. I'm going to be his mom, whether you like it or not." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step back. "Legally," I said calmly, "you're nothing to him." That did it. She lunged. Actually lunged. One step forward, arm jerking out like she was going to grab me. Derek caught her just in time, wrapping his arms around her as she thrashed. "Let go of me," she screamed. "She can't just—" "Enough," Derek said, panicked now. "Stop." People were staring. A court officer took a step toward us. I turned and walked away. Not because I was scared. Because I didn't need to stand there anymore. She had lost, and she knew it. That night, Derek called me. His voice was tired. "I hope you're satisfied," he said. "I'm not trying to win," I replied. "I'm trying to be Liam's mother without someone trying to erase me." "She just cares too much," he said weakly. "She needs to care less about replacing me," I said, "and more about respecting boundaries." There was a long silence. "I can't promise anything," he finally said, "but I'll talk to her." "That's all I'm asking," I replied. We hung up. I sat alone in my living room afterward, the house quiet, Liam asleep down the hall. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt something else. Relief. Because for the first time since this started, I knew something was finally, officially on my side. And for someone like Tessa, that was the only language she understood. 3 months passed. Not peacefully, just quietly, which I learned is not the same thing. Tessa didn't disappear. She didn't suddenly become reasonable or reflective or self-aware. She simply pulled back, like someone who'd touched a hot stove and decided to wait before trying again. No more calls to the school. No more emails to soccer. No more surprise appearances at my door. The cease and desist letter and the judge's warning had done their job. For now, Liam adjusted faster than I expected. Kids always do. His math improved. His teacher sent home a note praising his focus. He scored 2 goals in his last soccer game and spent the entire drive home narrating them like a sports commentator. "Tessa was there," he said casually one night as we brushed our teeth side by side. "She clapped a lot." I kept my tone neutral. "How do you feel about that?" He shrugged, toothpaste foam clinging to his lip. "She's okay." Then, after a pause, he added, "She talks too much." I almost laughed. Kids have a brutal way of cutting straight to the truth. The next parent-teacher conference came and went without incident. I walked into the classroom, sat down, talked about reading levels and multiplication tables. No drama, no power plays. The teacher smiled and said, It's really nice to have both parents so involved. I nodded. I didn't tell her what it had taken to get there. At pickup a week later, Derek lingered by his car while Liam ran ahead. She's not pushing the adoption thing anymore, he said quietly. I told her it's not happening. Good, I replied. She's adjusting, he added. I looked at him. I don't really care how hard this is for her, I said evenly. I care about our son. Derek nodded. Fair. That was the closest thing to accountability I'd ever get from him. You'd think that would have been the end of it. The victory lap. The resolution. But here's the thing about my life. This wasn't the first time someone tried to erase me quietly. It was just the first time I fought back publicly. And that memory, the one that taught me how dangerous silence can be, came from a different table, a different room, a different kind of betrayal. 2 years earlier, I was 32 years old. I worked as an IT systems administrator for a mid-sized company. Nothing flashy, nothing you brag about at parties, but it paid well. Stable, predictable, benefits, a 401k, no debt. I lived in a small apartment because I liked knowing my savings account existed. I drove an old Honda because it was paid off. And according to my mother, that made me a disappointment. My younger sister, Lena, was the opposite. She was 28, loud, charismatic, always posting photos of her marketing agency, her leased BMW, her designer clothes, her entrepreneur grind. My mother treated her like she'd invented success itself. What nobody knew, what I'd never said out loud, was that Lena's business had been bleeding money since day one. And I'd been the one keeping it alive. It started small, a few thousand here, 5,000 there, just until the next client comes through. It never did. 30 months later, I had loaned her $52,400. Documented, tracked, signed. Why did I keep lending? Because she was my sister. Because she begged. Because every time I hesitated, she reminded me that family helps family. And because a part of me still wanted to believe she'd figure it out. Stupid, maybe, but not malicious. Thanksgiving that year was at my parents' house. 12 people around the table. Wine poured, plates passed, small talk floating just above tension like it always did. Dinner was almost over when my mother stood up and lifted her glass. You know, she said, smiling too brightly, I think we should all raise a toast to Lena. Lena smirked. 3 years running her own business, my mother continued. That BMW, that beautiful apartment, such drive. Then she turned to me, and her smile shifted. Meanwhile, she said, Marissa lives in that tiny apartment, drives that old car, and has never done anything ambitious in her life. The table went silent. My father stared at his plate. My aunt suddenly found the cranberry sauce fascinating. Lena didn't even pretend to look embarrassed. She smiled. Something in me went very still. I didn't shout. I didn't cry. I smiled. You're right, Mom, I said calmly. She blinked. Well, I didn't mean to be harsh. No, I said. You're absolutely right. My sister is incredibly successful. I picked up my phone. In fact, I continued, let me tell everyone exactly how successful she is. Lena's smile faltered. And that was the moment everything changed. Because just like with Tessa, I was done letting someone else tell my story. The room was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming behind me. 12 people around the table. Forks paused midair, wine glasses frozen halfway to mouths. And my phone felt heavier in my hand than it ever had before. Lena's smirk slipped just a little. Marissa, she said carefully, what are you doing? I didn't look at her. I scrolled. Slowly. Deliberately. In the last 2.5 years, I said, voice calm enough to scare myself, Lena's business has been so successful that she's only needed to borrow, let me check my notes, $52,400 from me. Dead silence. My mother laughed once, sharp and disbelieving. That's ridiculous. Is it? I asked, finally looking up. Because I have Venmo screenshots, bank transfers, and a signed agreement right here. Lena lunged across the table, hand shooting toward my phone. Don't, I said quietly, pulling it back. This isn't the time. When would be the time? I asked. When you ask me for another $7,000 next month. My uncle leaned forward. Wait, over 50,000? Loaned, I corrected. Though she's paid back about 1,200 in 30 months, so the distinction is getting blurry. My grandmother slowly turned her head to look at Lena. Is that true? She asked. Lena stared at her plate. My mother's face went pale. That's what family does, she snapped. You help each other. You should be proud. I was proud, I said. Until I was called a failure for quietly keeping someone else's lifestyle afloat. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. For the record, I continued, my apartment is small because I was saving money. My car is old because it's paid off. And my unambitious job gives me health insurance, retirement savings, and zero debt. I looked at Lena. You have until January 1st to come up with a repayment plan, I said, or I take this to court. I grabbed my jacket. Happy Thanksgiving. I walked out before anyone could stop me. My phone started blowing up before I even reached my car. Calls, texts, voicemails. I ignored them all. For the first time in my life, I wasn't interested in managing anyone else's emotions. 3 days later, the fallout arrived. My mother left a 7-minute voicemail accusing me of ruining Thanksgiving, humiliating my sister, and airing private family business. My father sent a single text just after midnight. That wasn't the right way to handle it, but I wish you'd told me sooner. Call when you're ready. Lena's messages came in waves. Denial, anger, bargaining, more anger. You made this up. You're jealous. Let's talk. Don't do this. You're dead to me if you take me to court. The one that almost got me was the last. I looked up to you. I almost believed it. Then I remembered her calling me a corporate drone at my cousin's wedding. The first crack in Lena didn't expect came from our aunt. She called me quietly. I'm not here to lecture, she said. I just want to understand. Is it really over 50,000? 52.4, I said. There was a pause. She told your mother it was closer to 10, my aunt said. That you're exaggerating. I can send you everything, I replied. Please. 30 minutes later, she called back. Holy crap, she said softly. She lied. That was the moment the narrative started to wobble. And Lena? She panicked. That evening, I got a call from Evan, Lena's boyfriend. We'd met a handful of times. He'd always treated me politely, like someone adjacent to the real story. Hey, he said awkwardly. Can we talk? Sure. He didn't waste time. Lena says you're trying to extort her, he said, that the money was gifts and you're rebranding it as loans to hurt her. I laughed. I couldn't help it. Want the documentation? I asked. Silence. She said there is no agreement, he finally replied. I'll forward everything, I said. Venmo, bank transfers, and the signed document. Then you can decide. I sent it. 6 hours passed. Then a single text came in. I had no idea. I'm so sorry. Apparently, Evan confronted her. She tried to claim I'd faked everything. He pointed out that forging years of transaction records and DocuSign timestamps would require a criminal mastermind with way more energy than I had. She broke down, and then she admitted something else. The emergency $7,000 she'd asked me for the week before Thanksgiving, it was for a vacation she planned to surprise him with. Paid for by money she was going to borrow from me. Evan moved out that night. Lena's next text to me was pure venom. You destroyed my relationship, you destroyed my reputation, and I'm not paying you back a single cent. I stared at it. Then I forwarded it to my lawyer and replied with one sentence. See you in court. Because just like with Tessa, this wasn't about money anymore. It was about refusing to disappear quietly. If Lena had stopped at anger, this story might have ended quietly. She didn't. She escalated. The first sign came 2 days later, when my aunt texted me a screenshot of a family group chat I wasn't in. Group name, Family Support for Lena. My stomach dropped. The messages scrolled like a coordinated attack. Mom, we need to stand by Lena during this difficult time. Her own sister is trying to destroy her out of jealousy. Uncle, I'm still confused about the money. Mom, there is no real money issue. Marissa gave some gifts over the years and is now calling them loans because she's bitter about her own failures. Cousin, but didn't she show receipts? Mom, fabricated. She works in IT. She could fake anything. I stared at the screen, numb. My own mother was telling our extended family that I'd committed elaborate financial fraud, that I'd spent years laying a trap just to humiliate my sister at Thanksgiving. Apparently, I wasn't just a failure anymore. I was a villain. She called me that night. I almost didn't answer. Almost. I'm only going to say this once, my mother said the moment I picked up. Drop this lawsuit nonsense. Publicly apologize to your sister for lying, and we can move past this. Mom, I said evenly, I have documented evidence of over $52,000 in loans. Those were gifts. The signed agreement says otherwise. You manipulated her into signing something she didn't understand. She has a business degree, I replied. She understood. You've always been jealous of her, my mother snapped, ever since you were children. I took a breath. Special enough, I said, to need her failure sister to fund her lifestyle for 3 years. The line went dead. She hung up on me. 2 days later, my grandmother called. She's 81, sharp as a blade, doesn't use the internet much, always fair. I'm hearing a lot of stories, she said. I want to hear yours. So I told her everything. Every loan, every promise, every broken repayment date. When I finished, she was quiet. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. Lena came to see me yesterday, she said. She asked me for $15,000. I sat down hard. She said it was for business expansion, my grandmother continued. Told me you'd frozen partnership funds out of spite. Partnership funds. She made it sound like you two were business partners, my grandmother said, that you were illegally withholding her share. I closed my eyes. Grandma, I said softly, I have never been involved in her business. I just loaned her money she never repaid. Another long silence. I almost gave it to her, my grandmother admitted. I was going to write the check this morning. My chest tightened. Then your aunt called, she continued. She told me the real number, 52,000. Yes, I whispered. That girl looked me in the eye and lied, my grandmother said, in my living room. Her voice hardened. You do what you need to do legally, she said. I raised your mother, so I take responsibility for how she turned out. But I won't watch you be treated like this. I hung up shaking, because in the middle of all the chaos, someone had finally chosen truth over comfort. The legal process moved fast after that. My lawyer filed the civil suit the following week. Full amount plus interest. The agreement Lena signed included a 3% annual interest clause she apparently never read. Total claim, just under $57,000. Lena got served 3 days later. Her response? A voicemail at 2:14 a.m. You want to play games? She slurred. Let's play games. I'm going to destroy you. I saved it. My lawyer was thrilled. Then Lena tried something desperate. She contacted my employer. Told HR I'd stolen money from her and couldn't be trusted. HR called me in for a meeting. I brought the lawsuit filing, the cease and desist letter, the documentation. They listened. Then they sent Lena a formal notice instructing her to cease all contact with my workplace. Watching her tactics fail one by one was exhausting. But it was also clarifying, because every move she made proved one thing. She'd never planned to pay me back. She'd just never expected me to stop being quiet. The court date was set, and this time, I was ready. The courthouse felt different this time. Not because the building had changed, but because I had. I wasn't walking in hoping to be understood. I was walking in with proof. Lena arrived with a lawyer I'd never seen before, wearing a suit that looked borrowed and a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I wondered briefly how she'd paid him. Then I remembered. She always found someone else to carry the weight. Her lawyer tried 3 arguments. They fell apart one by one. First, the loans were gifts. I presented the signed agreement. Clear language, repayment expectations, interest clause. The judge glanced at Lena. Do you have a business degree? Yes, she muttered. Then you understood what you signed. That argument died quickly. Second, partial repayment. Lena claimed she'd paid back $15,000 in cash. I presented bank records and Venmo statements showing exactly $1,200 repaid over 30 months. Do you have receipts? The judge asked her. Witnesses? Anything? She didn't. Third, and my personal favorite, undue influence. Her lawyer claimed I'd taken advantage of her desperation. My lawyer countered by reading her own texts aloud. I know you have the money. Don't be selfish. Family helps family. The judge's expression didn't change, but the air did. Then came cross-examination. In the 6 weeks since learning of this lawsuit, my lawyer asked, have you attempted to borrow money from anyone else? Her lawyer objected. The judge overruled. Lena swallowed. Yes, she admitted. How much? $15,000 from my grandmother, $8,000 from friends, and a new credit card. So over $23,000, my lawyer said evenly, while claiming you owe my client nothing. There was no good answer to that. The ruling came quickly. Judgment in my favor. Full amount, plus interest. Just under $57,000. But winning a judgment isn't the same as getting paid. Lena had no savings, no assets. Her BMW was leased. Her agency was barely breathing. So we pursued wage garnishment. Turns out she'd quietly taken a consulting job weeks earlier, probably when she saw the writing on the wall. The judge approved garnishment of 25% of her disposable income, about $600 a month. It would take years, but it would be automatic and unavoidable. Her agency closed 2 weeks later. No announcement, no farewell post. Just gone. The BMW was repossessed shortly after. She started driving a car borrowed from a friend. The family fallout lingered. My mother hasn't spoken to me since the verdict. She sent one text. I hope you're happy. You destroyed your sister's future. I didn't reply. My father did reach out. We met for coffee. He admitted he'd known something was off for a while, but didn't want to rock the boat. He apologized. It wasn't redemption, but it was honesty. My grandmother has been my anchor. When Lena went crying to her about the repossession, Grandma didn't give her money. She said, you spent years taking advantage of your sister's generosity. It's time to stand on your own. Best grandma ever. Sometimes people ask me if I regret exposing everything at Thanksgiving, if I should have handled it privately. Here's my honest answer. No. For 30 years, I was the quiet one, the practical one, the one who didn't make waves. I let myself be minimized so others could shine, sometimes literally on my dime. My mother made a public declaration about my worth. I responded with the truth. The money will take years to fully recover. But the narrative? That changed in one night. My apartment is still small. My Honda is still old and paid off. My job is still unambitious by my mother's standards. But I have no debt, growing savings, and peace. Liam's card from school is still on my fridge. Crayon letters. Crooked soccer ball. Best mom, written in uneven blue. I don't know what the future holds. Tessa might try again someday. Lena might never speak to me again. My mother might never admit she was wrong. But I know this. I show up. I document. I don't disappear quietly anymore. Some battles you fight because walking away would cost you yourself. These were two of them, and I'd fight them again in a heartbeat.